Picture this, it's the dead of January, the kind of cold that doesn't just chill the air but presses down on everything it touches. A thick blanket of snow has muted the world outside your porch. Sound itself feels absorbed as if the land has decided to hold its breath. Trees stand frozen in place. The road is empty. The sky hangs low and gray. Inside, the evening news flickers on. The anchors speak with practiced calm, but the message is the same as it's been all winter. Grocery prices climbing higher every week. Supply chains strained, produce shipped from thousands of miles away. The camera pans across store shelves lined with vegetables that look tired before they've even been touched. Greens limp and rubbery. Potatoes softening under fluorescent lights. Food that costs more lasts less and tastes like it's already given up. But you don't reach for your car keys. Instead, you step outside. Or maybe you walk down into a quiet corner of your basement where the air feels different, cooler, heavier still. You kneel beside a pile of straw and brush it aside with your hands. Your fingers close around a carrot firm and cold, snapping cleanly when you bend it. You lift a potato from the dark, its skin dry and earthy, still holding the scent of soil. An apple waits nearby, unbruised, its smell carrying you back to a clear October afternoon when the trees were still full and the days still long. This moment is more than convenience. It's a quiet defiance. Because this isn't just about food. It never was. It's about memory, about a way of living that once made people resilient instead of dependent. Our grandparents didn't store food because it was trendy or self-sufficient. They did it because winter was real. Money was tight and survival depended on preparation. They didn't have massive electric bills humming in the background or a 24-hour supermarket glowing at the edge of town. What they had was soil, cold air, patience, and the knowledge to use all three. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that knowledge. We outsourced it to plastic compressors and constant consumption. Here's the cold truth the big stores will never advertise. Your refrigerator is killing your harvest. It's too dry, too bright, too artificial. Nature never intended vegetables to live inside humming boxes of recycled air. She designed them to rest, to slow down, to sleep beneath the soil wrapped in darkness and moisture waiting for spring. To reclaim that wisdom, you only need to understand what our ancestors understood instinctively. The ancestral code, 4 numbers that decide whether food lives or dies through winter. Temperature between 32 and 40 degrees. Cold enough to stop decay, warm enough to prevent freezing. Humidity between 85 and 95%. The damp breath of a cave, not the dryness of a kitchen drawer. Darkness because light is a signal, and signals wake things that should stay asleep. And airflow, just enough movement to prevent stagnation, never enough to steal moisture. Master these and something shifts. You aren't just storing vegetables anymore. You're stepping out of the cycle of panic buying and rising prices. You're reclaiming a quiet independence that doesn't announce itself, doesn't flash or hum, but endures. And that's where this journey begins. There is a kind of magic in soil that modern life has trained us to overlook. It doesn't flash. It doesn't hum. It doesn't ask for monthly payments. It simply works quietly, patiently, and without complaint. Long before insulation, foam, or climate control, the earth itself was humanity's first and most reliable shield against winter. Even when the air above becomes a frozen wasteland, the ground remembers something else. Just a few feet down, temperatures remain steady, protected from sudden swings. That stability is what our ancestors trusted. They didn't fight the cold. They worked with it, guiding it, letting it slow life instead of destroy it. Method 1. The buried trash can, $0 to $15. This is one of those solutions so simple it feels almost insulting to modern sensibilities. And yet, it fed families through the Great Depression when money was scarce and winters were unforgiving. You start with a basic metal trash can. Metal matters here. It's not about durability for you, it's about denial for rodents. Mice and rats can chew through wood and plastic given enough time. Metal stops them cold. You bury the can so the lid sits flush with the ground hidden but accessible. Drill a few small holes in the bottom, not many, just enough to let excess water escape. Moisture is your ally, but standing water is a death sentence. Inside you layer your harvest carefully. Carrots, potatoes, beets, never piled carelessly. Straw goes between each layer, creating air pockets that regulate humidity without trapping wetness. My grandmother never used newspaper, and she was right. Paper clings to moisture. Straw breathes. It cushions. It forgives small mistakes. Once sealed, that can become something more than storage. It's a food savings account buried where inflation can't touch it. Method 2. The straw-covered pit, $0. If you want to do this the way pioneers did without shortcuts, you dig. A shallow pit in well-drained soil is all it takes. You line the bottom with 6 inches of dry leaves, or straw, not as decoration but as insulation. Vegetables are stacked in a low pyramid, each one touching straw, not soil. Then you cover them. More straw first, then soil on top, sealing in darkness and cold. Snow becomes an added blanket. I still remember watching my grandmother pull carrots from frozen ground in February, their skins unblemished, their sweetness intensified by cold. That wasn't luck. That was understanding. Back then, people weren't consumers waiting for restocks. They were stewards shaping systems that carried them through scarcity. Method 3. The recycled cooler, $0. Modern materials can serve old wisdom if used correctly. That forgotten cooler in your garage, the one with a cracked lid and faded logo, is already a high-performance insulation box. With 2 small holes drilled on opposite sides for airflow, it becomes a controlled environment. Set it in a shed under an overhang or against the north side of a building. Without ventilation, moisture builds and mold follows. With just enough airflow, the balance holds. This is a $0 solution that quietly outperforms expensive appliances. These outdoor methods don't rely on power grids or perfect conditions. They rely on gravity, soil, and time-tested restraint. The earth doesn't rush. And if you learn to move at her pace, she will hold your harvest safely until you need it most. Survival has never been just about what you have. It's always been about where you keep it. History is full of people who had resources and still lost them because they stored them in the wrong place. Too warm, too exposed, too accessible to pests, moisture, or careless hands. Our ancestors learned quickly that preservation is as much about geography as it is about technique. The cold is a tool, but only if you know how to position yourself within it. Method 4. The under-porch sanctuary, $0 to $30. If you have a porch, you are standing on top of one of the most overlooked storage zones on a homestead. The space beneath a porch is naturally shaded, protected from direct wind, and insulated by the house above it. It stays dark. It stays cool. And most importantly, it stays stable. With minimal effort, this forgotten void becomes a sanctuary. Simple shelving keeps produce off the ground and away from pooled moisture. Crates or bins allow airflow while maintaining order. Drainage matters here. Standing water invites rot faster than cold ever will. And then there's the human factor. If you've got grandkids, pets, or curious visitors, a basic latch on the access door isn't paranoia, it's respect for the harvest. Stored food isn't clutter, it's future meals. You don't leave that to chance. Method 5. The plank-sided trench. Some crops don't want to be uprooted from their identity. Cabbage and celery especially hold best when stored as if they're still growing. The trench method honors that. You dig just deep enough to accommodate the crop in well-drained soil. Wooden planks line the sides, preventing collapse while still allowing breath. Cabbage heads are placed upright, roots attached as though they're waiting for the sun to return. The trench is then capped with planks buried under straw and sealed with soil. Snow adds another layer of insulation. What you've created is not storage, it's suspended animation. The plants don't rot, they wait. This method doesn't announce itself. It doesn't clutter your space. It disappears into the land exactly the way effective survival systems should. The $12 professional secret. A neighbor once asked me which contractor I hired to build my storage bin. She assumed money had been spent, skill had been applied, a system engineered. The truth was simpler. A large plastic storage bin, styrofoam sheets cut to size, small ventilation holes near the top covered with quarter-inch hardware cloth. That mesh matters. Mice can squeeze through gaps you wouldn't believe, but they can't chew steel. The result looks intentional, controlled, professional, and it costs less than a dinner out. That illusion of complexity is part of the advantage. People underestimate simple systems. They overlook them. Meanwhile, your food rests safely inside a quiet box that doesn't draw attention, doesn't need electricity, and doesn't fail during outages. These methods are not about hiding food in fear. They are about positioning food wisely, about thinking like someone who expects winter to test them and prepares accordingly. Because survival isn't loud, it's deliberate. Not everyone has land to dig into. Not everyone has a porch, a shed, or a soil that cooperates. But everyone lives somewhere, and every structure, whether it's a farmhouse, a suburban home, or a small apartment, has its own climate zones. We just stopped paying attention to them. Before thermostats controlled every room to the same temperature, houses were uneven by nature. Cold corners existed, warm rises, air moved with purpose. Our grandparents didn't fight these differences. They used them. The first step indoors is learning to notice. Walk through your home on a cold morning. Touch the walls. Feel where the air settles. There will be places that always feel a few degrees cooler, a little heavier. Those are not flaws. They are opportunities. Method 6. The unheated closet, $0. The most overlooked storage space in any home is the empty closet in a basement or a north-facing room. These areas receive little direct sunlight. They stay shaded. They remain cooler than living spaces without effort or cost. By simply leaving the door cracked open, you allow gentle airflow that prevents stagnation. Baskets made of wire or woven fiber hold vegetables without trapping moisture. Plastic bags suffocate them. Breathability is life. This method requires no construction, no purchases, only restraint. The temptation to overmanage is strong. Resist it. Let the space do what it naturally does. Method 7. The kitchen cabinet cellar. $20 to $50. Apartments demand creativity, not compromise. Cabinets against exterior walls, especially north-facing ones, are consistently cooler than the rest of the kitchen. Under the sink is often the coldest point of all, provided there are no leaks. Here, the enemy is condensation. Use breathable containers. Space produce so air can circulate. Check weekly. This isn't hoarding, it's quiet efficiency. With this setup, you step out of the weekly grocery cycle. You stop paying premium prices for tired vegetables shipped across continents. You're harvesting from your own kitchen on your own terms. The basement vault. For those with a basement, this is where indoor storage becomes something close to mastery. The northeast corner stays coldest furthest from heat sources and sun exposure. Partition walls made from basic 2x4 studs and insulation create a controlled zone separating stored food from the rest of the house. But the real genius is ventilation. A small basement window becomes a dual duct system, one channel low to pull cold air in, another high to let warmer air escape. Cold air sinks, warm air rises. You don't need fans. You don't need power. You've created a living system that breathes with the seasons. Indoor storage isn't about replicating a root cellar perfectly. It's about honoring the same principles: cool, dark, damp, and still within the constraints you have. When you stop forcing your home to behave like a showroom and start letting it behave like shelter, it reveals how much it's been willing to help you all along. Every harvest, no matter how carefully stored, still faces its final test. Preservation is not a one-time act. It is a season-long commitment. The battle doesn't end when the last carrot is buried or the lid is closed. That's when vigilance begins. There are 3 enemies, and they never change. The first is rot. It spreads quietly. One soft potato left unchecked can turn a full bin into a loss. I learned that lesson my first year. I trusted the system but ignored the responsibility that came with it. By the time I noticed the smell, 30 pounds of potatoes were already gone. The mistake wasn't the method. It was neglect. From that winter on, I learned to check weekly, to touch, to smell, to remove anything that felt wrong without hesitation or sentimentality. The second enemy is sprouting. Light and warmth send signals, and plants respond whether we want them to or not. A sprouting potato isn't dangerous, but it's a warning. Conditions are drifting. Darkness must be restored. Cold must be reinforced. Storage isn't static. It requires adjustment as winter shifts. The third enemy is rodents. They are not villains. They are competitors. Mice will chew through wood like paper, following scent trails with ruthless efficiency. That's why quarter-inch hardware cloth matters. Not chicken wire, not guesswork, steel. I watched a neighbor lose her entire winter supply because she trusted old wooden crates. By March, the mice were well fed and she had nothing left. But when you do it right, something remarkable happens. Imagine early March. The days are still cold, but the sun lingers longer. Snow begins to retreat from the edges of the yard. You step out to your storage under the porch, in the trench, down the cellar steps. You lift the lid. Cool air spills out. Inside carrots are still firm. Potatoes still heavy in the hand. Cabbage tight and alive. You carry them inside. You wash the soil away. You chop slowly. The smell of onions, carrots, and potatoes fills the kitchen. Steam rises from a pot that doesn't represent desperation but control. That soup isn't just food, it's proof. Proof that preparation works. That knowledge passed down quietly through generations still has power. That no matter what happens at the grocery store, prices rising, shelves thinning, you are not panicking, you are cooking. This is the independence our grandparents understood. Not loud, not political, just steady, rooted, earned through attention and respect for simple systems. When you sit down to that meal, you are not just feeding yourself. You are honoring a contract with the past and making one with the future. Our roots go deep. And as long as we remember how to protect what the earth gives us, winter will never be something to fear. So choose your method. Try one, then another. Share what works. Keep this knowledge moving forward. Because a full soup pot in March is more than comfort. It is victory.